Yamuna Tira Vanachare Tira Vanachare Yamuna Tira Vanachare Natira Vanachare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Radha Madhava Kunja Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Radha Madhava Kunja Bihare Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Pada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Status Shismad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Grantaraj Sri Caitanya Charitamrita Ki Sri Sri Radha Radhanath Ki Sri Giri Govardhan Ki Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Sankirtan Yagya Ki Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Nityananda Jai Sri Chaitanya Jai Advaita Chandra Jai Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai. There are cushions there for anyone who's sitting on the floor wants to use a cushion. Okay, devotees. Today we are reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya-lila chapter 16, the Lord's attempt to go to Vrindavan. And we are beginning with, it appears to me, to be verse 176. I think that was, we left off after the purport about the Vishvaskana, the Kayasta community. So yes, Madhya-lila chapter 16 will begin with verse 176. And the situation is that Lord Chaitanya wants to go to Vrindavan, so he has set off from Jagannath Puri, where of course he was based, he was residing for some time, some years, and he, with a whole lot of devotees who just couldn't be separated from him, really, they all went up. They went through Cuttack, which was the headquarters of King Prataparudra, and they met him there, Prataparudra, and he had very nice meeting with the Lord. The Lord embraced him, knowing who he was. Previously, the Lord embraced him when the king was in disguise as some sort of ordinary person. But now the Lord had accepted him as one of his associates. So then they moved on from Cuttack to the edge to the border of King Prataparudra's kingdom. And it was on the bank, the kingdom, the border was on a river. And then on the other side, it was Muslim-controlled land area. And, the Muslims, the relationships between the Muslims and the local people in India in those times were not the best. In fact, sometimes they were the worst. They were really terrible. And the governor, or king or governor, both terms are used. In Caitanya Caritamrita, it says the governor. In Caitanya Bhagavat, it says the king. So anyway, he was effectively like the king, the ruler of the next, you could say country, actually, because in those days, India was a collection of many small little countries, independent of each other. And some of them were really small. Actually, I forget the number. At the time there was the greatest number, but there was a lot. I mean, I think well over 100 little, whatever you'd call them, with Rajas, Maharajas, and these people in control. So anyway, that particular area, Lord Chaitanya's moving north from somewhere after Cuttack, moving north towards Bengal. And this, let's just say governor, because that's the language of Caitanya Caritamrita. It was a Muslim, and he was one of the not nice ones. Yeah, really not nice. But a very interesting thing happened just at the end of last week's class. The part we were reading is that governor, who had a Hindu secretary, sort of like a minister of Hindu affairs, because obviously the majority population was Hindu. So he kept, even though he was a tough man, sure, and, he'd really caused a lot of pain and killed a lot of people on the basis of religion. But this governor, he had a Hindu, like a minister of Hindu affairs, and that minister of Hindu affairs called a Mahapatra. one day the governor told him, or maybe it was the secretary of the governor told the Hindu minister that, we've heard that this saint Caitanya is just nearby, and it looks like he wants to pass through our country. So please arrange that the governor can meet with him. And the Hindu, the Mahapatra, the Hindu gentleman, he was very astonished because not just the reputation, but who that Muslim governor was and what he had done, and therefore the Mahapatra was concerned. Maybe he wants to attack Lord Caitanya. But then the secretary told the Mahapatra, actually, what did he say? The Muslim governor is very eager. He really wants to meet Lord Caitanya, not, have a confrontation. And he has submitted this petition with great respect. This is verse 173, by the way. It is a proposal for peace. You need not fear that we will fight. So the Mahapatra was very much astonished because the governor was a Madhyapa Yavana. Anyone understand Madhyapa? A drunkard. A drunkard. And the term they use, which Prabhupada's translating into Muslim, is simply Yavana, which, is a pretty heavy term for a low-class meat eater. So the Mahapatra couldn't understand what's happened to this governor. He wants to, with great respect, meet Lord Caitanya, and he wondered who has changed his mind. And he thought, it must be Lord Caitanya. Okay, so now the Mahapatra, the Hindu representative, he's still conversing with the Muslim secretary of the governor. Etabali Vishvasere Kahila Vachana Bhagyatanra Asi Karuka Prabhu Darashana. After thinking this, the Mahapatra immediately informed the Muslim secretary, it is a great fortune for your governor. Let him come visit Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because Lord Chaitanya is still, he hasn't crossed the river yet. He's still in the kingdom of Prataparudra. So, of course they can always try to attack, but it would not be well taken at all politically if they tried to do something like that. Pratita kariye yadi nirastra hana asibeka panchasata britya sangelana. However, let me make it understood that he should come here without weapons. He may bring with him 5 or 7 servants. Now, actually, the Mahapatra, I'm sorry. The Mahapatra is not from the Muslim side. He's one of the authorities in Prataparudra's government. So they're still in the the kingdom of Prataparudra, and this is, Mahapatra means representative of Prataparudra, not exactly like a Hindu minister in the Muslims' government, although he had a Hindu minister. And an interesting little cultural point, it's really a little one, but it is interesting. You may have noted how when numbers of people, small numbers of people are mentioned, like in this case, it's in the Bengali, Pancha Sata, 5 or 7. And we read the other, on some other occasions, 2 or 4, 3 or 5. This is like an idiom, interesting little cultural point, that when mentioning, rough numbers, approximately, they don't really say, about, in this case, you could say, about 6. And they don't say 5 or 6, which we would say. That's how we express approximations. But the way of doing it is 5 or 7 with 2 in between, not just 1. It's interesting. Little cultural point. The secretary returned to the Muslim governor and informed him of this news. Oh, I should have read the Bengali. Anyway, so informed him of the news. Dressing himself like a Hindu, the Muslim governor then came to see Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Yeah, they had different ways of presenting themselves. We mentioned, I think last week, how the Hindu practice was and still is. It's really still is. In India, men often wear a moustache, but much less a beard. Whereas the Muslim men, they wear a beard, but not a moustache. This is very common. This is common. And if you when you're there, if you mix with the people, you got to watch out for the facial hairstyles, because you never know who you're going to be dealing with. And there would be definitely different ways of dealing with Muslims than with Hindus, except in Vrindavan. In Vrindavan, even the Muslims, at least the shopkeepers, if you say to them, Hare Krishna, they'll say Hare Krishna back. If you say, the common thing is Radhe Radhe, they say Radhe Radhe back. The Muslims, yeah, they do, because they know they have to. Okay. So now this is real. This is an amazing pastime. This Muslim governor, or, he's tantamount to a king, really, you could say. He's heard about Lord Caitanya. We read last week the report that, this Hindu saint, Caitanya, has come with millions of followers, and they're all chanting. It's a big thing. Obviously, Lord Caitanya was a really important, prominent person. And the Muslim governor, when he heard about this, about Lord Caitanya, his mind changed, as we read, that he became eager to meet and wanted to meet in a very respectful mood was extremely unusual, to put it mildly, in those days. So Durahaite Prabhudeki Bhumete Padya Dandavat Kare Ashru Pulakita Hana. Wow. Upon seeing Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu from a distant place, the Muslim governor fell to the ground and offered obeisances. Tears came to his eyes, and he was jubilant with ecstatic emotions. The Muslim governor, who's been responsible for the killing of many Hindus and, some really, really heavy things, smashing temples and deities, really just from another world altogether, and not a nice world. And just see what's happened. Mahapatra Anila Tanre Karya Samana Yodahate Prabhu Age Laya Krishna Nama. Arriving in that way, the Muslim governor was respectfully brought before Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu by the Mahapatra. This is the secretary of Prataparudra. And they're in the kingdom of Prataparudra. The governor then stood before the Lord with folded hands, and he chanted the holy name of Krishna. Even there's still, when you go to Navadweep, in Navadweep area, the Muslims are much more Muslim than in Vrindavan area, because I don't think they're in the majority, but, proportionately there's a lot more of them than in Vrindavan area. But still, there's some really nice Muslims in Navadweep who mix with the devotees. But particularly at Chandkazi's Samadhi, it's officially a Muslim, owned by Muslims, who have the beard without the moustache, and so on and so forth. But they're nice. They're nice. Yeah. Adama Yavana Kule Kena Janma Haila Vidi More Hindu Kule Kena Na Janmaila. The governor then submissively asked, why was I born in a Muslim family? This is considered a low birth. Why didn't Supreme Providence grant me a birth in a Hindu family? I mean, this is totally revolutionary. Totally, completely. For a Muslim governor, because he's representing some higher Muslim authority. And for him to become a devotee is just like, you practically, literally could not do a worse thing amongst the Muslim society. Hindu Haile Paitama Toma Charana Sannidhana Vyartamora E Deha Yaoka Purana. If I had taken birth in a Hindu family, it would have been easy for me to remain near your lotus feet. Since my body is now useless, let it die immediately. Eta Shuni Mahapatra Avishta Hana Prabhu Ke Karena Stuti Charane Dariya. Upon hearing the governor's submissive statement, the Mahapatra was overwhelmed with joy. he clasped the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and began to offer the following prayers. Chandala Pavitra Yanra Sri Nama Shravane Hena Tumara E Jiva Paila Darshane. Simply by hearing your holy name, a Chandala, the lowest of men, can be purified. Now this conditioned soul has received your personal interview. So he's talking about Chandala. This is the Mahapatra, the Hindu minister from, or secretary from Prataparudra's government. So he talks about Chandala. There are different levels of, super low-class people. Three main levels: Malecha, Yavana, and Chandala. A Chandala eats dogs, a Yavana eats cows, and a Malecha eats anything. So, there's some sort of hierarchy, or a relative of a hierarchy. Chandala, though, eater of dogs. Actually, one devotee who went to Korea, would you believe? The first devotees who went to Korea, I guess Americans, in Prabhupada's time. I think it was Prabhupada's time. Anyway, it was quite some time ago. They were going out doing book distribution and preaching, and they noticed a strange thing, particularly coming from the Western world, I think America. They noticed they'd go door to door. There were no dogs. And so eventually they asked someone, what happened? There's no dogs. And the person said, they all got eaten. Haribol. Different cultures have different standards. But in a sense, it's not as bad as eating cows anyway. But it's all just off the scale, really. Inhara ye gati ite ki vismaya tomara darshana prabhav e matahaya. It is no doubt that this Muslim governor has attained such results of being purified, by Lord Chaitanya, by just hearing about Lord Chaitanya, what to speak of meeting him. Simply by seeing you, all this is possible. And here's a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. Yanamadaya Shravananu Kirtanad Yat Pravanad Yat Smaranada Piquachit Swadopi Sadya Savanaya Kalpate Kutapunaste Bhagavanu Darshanat. To say nothing of the spiritual advancement of persons who see the Supreme Person face to face. Even a person born in a family of dog eaters becomes immediately eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices if he once utters the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or chants about him, hears about his pastimes, offers him obeisances, or even remembers him. So we have a purport here, fairly little extensive, from Srila Prabhupada. This is a quotation from Srimad Bhagavatam 333.6. It's a good one. I'll make a note of that. It's a really good one. According to this verse, it does not matter what position a person holds. One may be the lowest of the low, a chandala or dog eater, but if he takes to chanting and hearing the holy name of the Lord, he is immediately eligible to perform Vedic sacrifices. This is especially true in this age of Kali. Harir Nam, Harir Nam, Harir Nam eva kevalam. Kalo nastyeva 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 gatiranyata. Which is Caitanya Charitamrita, Madhya-lila 17:21. From Brihanaradiya Purana originally, chapter 38, verse 126. And that means, in this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the only means of deliverance is the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. There is no other way. There is no other way. There is no other way. A person born in a Brahmin family cannot perform Vedic sacrifices until he is properly purified and has attained his sacred thread. However, according to the present verse of Sri Caitanya Charitamrita, quoted from Srimad Bhagavatam, it is understood that even a low-born person can immediately perform sacrifices if he sincerely chants and hears the holy name of the Lord. Sometimes envious people ask how Europeans and Americans in this Krishna consciousness movement can become Brahmins and perform sacrifices. They do not know that the Europeans and Americans have already been purified by chanting the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This is the proof. This is the proof. Swadopi Sajja Savanaya Kalpate. One may be born in a family of dog eaters. Yeah. But he can perform sacrifices simply by chanting the Mahamantra. Those who find fault in the Western Vaishnavas should consider the statement from Srimad Bhagavatam and the commentary on this verse by Srila Jiva Goswami. In this regard, Srila Jiva Goswami has stated that to become a Brahmin, one has to wait for purification and undergo the sacred thread ceremony. But a chanter of the holy name does not have to wait for the sacred thread ceremony. We do not allow devotees to perform sacrifices until they're properly initiated in the sacred thread ceremony. Yet, according to this verse, an offenseless chanter of the holy name is already fit to perform a fire ceremony, even though he is not doubly initiated by the sacred thread ceremony. This is the verdict given by Devahuti, the mother of Lord Kapila Dev, when he was instructing her in pure Sankhya philosophy. So we read that, a good number of months ago, when we were reading, we're going to be reading this in a few months. We're in chapter 31 of the third canto now. We will reach 33 in due course. Stick with it and be every day in Srimad Bhagavatam class, and you will have read the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. It took us the first time, because we started the day we opened the temple. I forget the actual date, but September, or it was maybe October actually, 85. And we finished the first. We went right through. Oh, I don't know. It must have been, now we're in the third canto, second time around. So I guess we finished 5 years ago, or no more, maybe several years ago. So yeah, it's a very important point. And Prabhupada's really emphasizing that if someone's born a Brahmin, means in a real Brahmin family, the actual Brahmins, they have the culture, they have the standards, but they're not necessarily like real Vaishnavas. Then before the younger people in the family can perform Vedic sacrifices, they have to go through a process. Then they can. But others who are not born in such families, even as the verse says, someone born in a family of dog eaters, means they were accustomed to doing that themselves, actually. Still, as soon as they take up Krishna consciousness, as soon as they start chanting Hare Krishna nicely, then they become fit to perform those sacrifices. Yeah. You know, there's famous story. There's a few famous stories, actually, but one famous story. The first time some of our devotees went to Vrindavan with Srila Prabhupada, means I think 71. And, you know, the majority were Americans. Maybe they all were, but definitely the majority, if not all. And the local people had difficulty not just accepting them, taking them seriously as devotees, but just in dealing with them, because some of them were sort of, you know, a lot more outspoken, you could say, than your local people. Something like that, you could say. Not all of them, but some definitely. So, but some of them, you know, some of the group of devotees were very pleasant and gentle and nice. And the local people appreciated that, at least some of them did. So one of those devotees, who was very gentle and nice, one day he went to visit one of the old, like, Goswami, what they call the Goswami temples, maybe the Govindaji temple or Gopinath or Radha Raman, one of these, the main temples in Vrindavan. And the pujari, you know, he was there, the devotee was there, and the arati, he was very nice, and generally he was very nice. And then the pujari spoke English and spoke to him, and the devotee was very nice. And it was just the devotee, by their standards, did really well. And this pujari was impressed. And he said to the devotee, you know, if you carry on like this, in your next life, you may be able to worship this deity, one of the main deities of Vrindavan. And the devotee sort of said, oh, wow, oh, that's nice, thank you. And then went back and happened to meet Prabhupada when he went back to wherever the devotees were staying at that time. And Prabhupada asked him, where were you? And he said, yeah, I was in that temple. And Prabhupada said, oh, what happened? And the devotee told Prabhupada what this person had said. If you carry on like this, in your next life, you may be able to worship this deity. So the devotee told Prabhupada, and Prabhupada said, and what did you say? How did you reply? And the devotee said, well, just Hare Krishna, thank you. And Prabhupada said, you should have told him, the Pujari, if you carry on like this very nicely, in your next life, you may be born in ISKCON. And if the devotee had said that, the person would have been, it would have been a major event in the person's life. It really would have. It would have been the talk of the town. It really would have been the talk of the town. Because they were so much in that type of mood. In the time of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, he had a handful of Western disciples, like, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, something like that. And otherwise, the huge majority were mainly local Bengalis, or at least Indians. But he was giving Brahminical initiation, sacred thread, and he was giving sannyas to non-Brahmins, devotees not born in Brahmin families, just all sorts. Like Prabhupada. Well, of course, Prabhupada was later than that, but Prabhupada's family is a Vaishya family, Kayasta family. But he was given sannyas. So back in those days, in the 1930s, when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta came to Vrindavan with his Vrajmandal Parikrama party of probably a few thousand devotees, with quite a number of sannyasis from non-Brahmin families and second initiated devotees from non-Brahmin families, the same people from the main temples, they were just so, in that wrong mood, they locked the temples and wouldn't let them enter. And they made a conspiracy to have Srila Bhaktisiddhanta murdered because they felt, it's undermining what they understood to be Vedic culture. But nowadays, if you visit those temples, they'll be so happy to receive you because they know the Western devotees are more generous than the local devotees. Oh boy, they're so much more generous. The local devotees give a few of the old little paisa coins, which are not used any longer. Whereas the Westerners, and they just hand out the notes. Oh, it's really amazing. But one thing I could say is that this is the whole pastime in which, at the end of which, it is not mentioned here, but it is in Chaitanya Bhagavat, at the end of which Lord Chaitanya speaks the very famous verse, Priti Viti Achayata Nagaradigram Sarvatra Prachara Haibe Mora Nam, that in the future, in every town and village on this planet, Priti Vite, Priti means the earth planet, my holy names will be chanted. And what happened was, which is not, it's sort of, there's implication here, but at the end, this Muslim governor is just a totally transformed person, incredibly transformed person by the influence of Lord Chaitanya. And when he goes back, the governor goes back, after this, very wonderful meeting with Lord Chaitanya, the devotees gathered with Lord Chaitanya And the devotees were telling Lord Caitanya, this is amazing. We cannot believe it. Because this man, he was just beyond hopeless. He was just a full scale demon, resident of hell. But now he's become a very sincere devotee by your influence. It's unbelievable. We're just amazed. And Lord Caitanya answered by speaking that verse, and he said, you think that's amazing? Just wait and see. In the future, in every town and village of this planet, my holy names will be chanted, and that will be amazing. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any comment or question? Yes, Marie. You know, he was always transcendentally glorious. But we don't read that his physical body miraculously remained, you know, like a teenage body. Krishna's body remained basically like a teenage, maybe 20-year-old body. But Lord Caitanya was present for 48 years, and we don't read that happened. But, you know, all these things happen by the will of the Lord. If the Lord wants his body to apparently age, he'll do it. And it will not happen just because years have passed. It's just his will. Yeah. So, like that. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.